What's cooking, folks? Vermillion Phoenix here, and today I'm here to talk about diamond traits. Now, I've done a video similar to this for Pentagon traits already. That'll probably be in the end card stuff at the end. I'll probably make a playlist with all of these once they're complete. But either way, today we're going to talk about diamond traits. This is arguably the smallest section of the traits, but they're still extremely impactful. Probably one of the most important spaces, because this mainly contains your defensive bonuses. Now, for those that aren't sure what traits are earnable drops that you get from chests, similar to trap cards or guardians or consumables for the sabotage guys. But they're permanent one-time unlocks that you get to use and select as part of your loadout, and they give you permanent bonuses while you're in a match. So there's two parts to a trait. There's a slot matching bonus, which is what the shape is for. You have 4 slots in your loadouts, and each trait has a shape that has a slot that it goes to. The 4th slot is universal and does not give you a slot matching bonus, so whatever you put in there pretty much only gets its trait bonus. You'll see by looking at extra padding here that the trait bonus is listed and then the slot matching bonus is listed underneath. Now, the slot matching bonuses usually are not super powerful, but some definitely outperform others. So let's look at the slot matching bonuses for diamond traits first. They're not super diverse, but there's 4 of them, I believe. There are armor and magical armor. Now, if you're not familiar with armor just means physical armor, not everything. It'll reduce the damage that you take from anything that deals physical damage. So non-elemental minions will deal less damage to you. Magic armor does the same thing, but for all non-physical damage types. So if it's fire, if it's ice, if it's arcane, it's reduced. So it's important to understand that. Of course, you're really going to be trying to equip these mostly for the trait bonuses, since those are significantly more powerful than the slot matching bonuses 99% of the time. Either way, let's start going over some of these. We'll start with attention deficit. This is one of the earliest things that you can actually get, and it gives you a magic armor slot matching bonus and a reduction to all crowd control effects, slows, and stuns. Now, this is probably going to be more important for people playing sabotage, mainly because there's not a lot of remaining crowd control effects within the game right now. It used to be such that enemies had the ability to stun you. Right now, that's reduced mainly to just slows from heavy ogres or ogres in general and gnolls. This will reduce the time that you are slowed or under any stuns or debuffs, and this is supposed to affect stuns or debuffs that come from any abilities that take place during sabotage as well. One of the slot matching bonuses for the diamond traits is, where is it? There we go. Control effect duration, which is basically a much weaker version of attention deficit, and they can stack for a total of 50% reduction, and that means that all the stuns and everything will basically be at half their duration. That's really, really good, and I think you guys should take advantage of that if you find that to be a problem when you play sabotage. That said, I think there are a few things that could be tweaked to make these even better. The teleportation staff, which I think has given some people an issue, should probably take longer to teleport people away if they have crowd control reduction, but I'm not sure if that's something that the developers have already thought of or intend on implementing into the game, but might be a good idea at some point. Either way, we've seen armor, magic armor, crowd control reduction, and physical armor. The other bonus for this slot is 4% max health. Now, that's pretty much just a flat you die less bonus. It's pretty solid, but the good thing about that particular slot matching bonus is actually that it combos with the idea behind some of these traits, which is to keep your hero alive longer. Since we're getting into Enjoys Pain next, you'll see what I mean by that. Enjoys Pain gives any character that deals physical damage with their primary attack life steal. You steal 4% of the damage done as life, and the more damage you can deal, the better you heal. This is extremely good and an extremely sought after trait. Its counterpart for magic damage dealing heroes is going to be Practices Witchcraft, and they offer an armor that complements whatever they steal life with. So you deal magic damage, you get magic armor. You deal physical damage, you get physical armor. Either way, they allowed you to heal without the need of trap parts or gear. And because of that, and because I don't believe there are currently any ways to disable traits as part of Chaos Trials, they're going to be really important, especially for that aspect of the game. Keep in mind that the extra status effects that happen as part of the Chaos Trials, like say Celebratory Dance, can be reduced with attention deficit. And if you guys happen to have that as an issue, feel free to slot it. That can be really beneficial at making sure that you don't have too much downtime for knocking out a bunch of mercenaries or bosses, because when you get the right keys with the right combination of chaos, it can be a problem. Either way, Enjoys Pain is really nice, and since a good selection of characters in the game, like I think at least a third of them, do physical primary damage, especially the melee characters, it's something that you want to pay attention to. I remember tanking a lot of damage with Bianca just due to her high primary attack damage and lifesteal being based off of it. Either way, let's move on to Execution Advantage. This is sort of an iffy card. This trait gives you a shield worth 30% of your max HP whenever you kill a boss, mercenary, or hunter. The addition of hunters to this actually made it worthwhile. This actually works extremely well with characters that have scaling HP values through either a weaver, or actually pretty much just weavers. So characters like Hogarth and Bloodspike specifically are going to benefit extremely well from this. However, outside of them, the 30% HP bonus, really doesn't stack up that much. For ranged characters, you're going to get a very small amount of HP, and because of their ability to kite and usually crowd control effects that they are able to bring with them or are part of their kit naturally, this probably won't make too big of a difference. So this is something that I see as primarily useful for melee characters, and if you absolutely need somebody that's just going to tank like crazy, then this is definitely going to help them out. But due to the shields having only a 5-second lifespan, doesn't really seem that good long term. Like it seems like it'll be useful in very niche situations where you need to tank a lot for small periods of time, but it's not going to be something that gives you a lot of staying power, mainly because it only triggers on very specific enemy type kills, and you're not going to get huge swarms of hunters or bosses happening. The only thing that you have an opportunity to increase as part of Chaos Trials at least are going to be mercenaries, and in Sabotage, none of those three enemy types, bosses, mercenaries, or hunters, will naturally spawn, I believe. So it really wouldn't offer you any long-term advantage there. So this seems like something that's really just sort of relegated to Chaos Trial use and some niche uses in the survival battlegrounds. So a good trait to have, not really going to change the game too much in my opinion for most characters, but the high HP ones like Bianca and Hogarth and Bloodspike are going to benefit the most from it. Then we have extra padding. Now this is probably one of the most important traits outside of high pain tolerance, which is basically the exact same thing, except this doesn't have a stipulation where you have to deal damage to the enemy first. However, they do stack, so you can have extra padding and high pain tolerance, and they will both give you an additional 12% damage protection. I'm pretty sure that's going to be as added armor to your hero, so with both of them added, you'll be taking about a quarter less damage, which is really, really good for characters that don't have a way to extend their HP, as it is one of the largest longevity boosts that they're able to get outside of literally just preventing their enemies from being able to do anything. That, and for characters that again have scaling HP, such as Bianca, well, not Bianca, but Hogarth and Bloodspike, they're able to basically extend their HP gains that much more and absorb that much more damage. They also come with physical armor, which is really good if you plan on tanking in the front lines, especially since outside of stages that specifically deal elemental damage, they are basically going to reduce the damage that you take even further. So the slot matching bonus pairs up really nicely with the trait bonuses for both of those traits, and if you find yourself having issues staying alive, that's a really good trait to use. Both of them, actually. Then we have Feel Safe at Home. Feel Safe at Home, I think, is interesting. It's not a bad trait, but you get it early. What it does is it increases your armor when you're around Guardians. Now, keep in mind the damage reduction from all of these can be combined, but Guardians, at least the default Guardians, I believe, naturally give you like a 50 armor boost. That may be too high, maybe 40. But either way, they give you an armor boost. This increases your armor even further. And keep in mind, you can have more armor via skills. For some heroes, like Hogarth's shield ability gives him an extra 100 armor. And you can also have on extra padding and high pain tolerance. So stacking these gives you a huge amount of damage reduction, and in some cases you can get extremely tanky. So Feel Safe at Home also gives you that bonus HP, which, since early on your HP is going to be lower, that 4% is going to make a bigger difference, just because your health pool isn't expected to be that high at lower levels. So I actually found myself using Feel Safe at Home a lot through Apprentice, and that sort of scaled down after I got traits that were a bit more globally effective. As I got further in the game, needed things that would affect the game in different ways than just giving me personally more defense. But either way, it's a good trait to have early. Make use of it, especially if you fight near your Guardians a lot. And in general, I think it's just really good. It's about on par with the Guardian bonus damage traits that you have in the Pentagon trait field. But if you're a hero that decides that your place is going to be around your Guardian, you can sort of stack all those together, and then you become more effective as Guardians are around. Now, the way the Guardians are set up right now, these actually become more effective as you have more heroes in the game, because you have more heroes that are able to take advantage of those boosts, and you have more Guardians available. Right now, that seems to be the way it is, and the Guardian system is a little bit unbalanced due to the fact that you benefit from having more players in the game, just due to the fact that you're carrying extra Guardians, and the Guardians are strong enough that they basically count like almost as another player. So in light of that system being reworked, these are okay. If that system gets reworked and there's some changes, then these would scale proportionate to however Guardians get boosted or nerfed. Either way, right now, not bad, but not great. But obtainable early, so it's useful for that purpose alone. Then, since we talked about these already, we have the last few. Respect My Authority is probably one of the hardest traits to actually wrap your head around, mainly because I think a lot of skills in the game actually benefit from this. Anything that's crowd control. This says crowd control abilities, but I'm not sure if this actually affects things like the natural freeze time from stacks of ice attacks that enemies can get from certain heroes, since I think those count as abilities too, but this would also guaranteed affect any abilities that just outright stun, slow, or root enemies. So you take a character like Ivy, you have her Reach of Roots. With certain weavers, Reach of Roots can hold enemies longer, deal additional damage. This will further increase the length of those abilities and increase the damage that they're able to deal if you take the applicable weavers. If you think about characters like Oziel and his Jar of Souls, You throw the jar, jar lasts longer. Just anything to deal with crowd control, stunning enemies, holding enemies, slowing enemies. This makes it better. So with that being a lot of the kit for some characters, I think this is actually a really strong skill that, or strong trait. There we go. That shouldn't be overlooked, especially since when you stack this with multiple heroes that have crowd control abilities, this is extremely powerful. And this card alone is probably one of the reasons why things like crowd control reduction was added to the game a while back. So if it had to be balanced, that means it's probably good, and I definitely think it is. Then we have Take Lessons from Sickness. This is an interesting card only because it's obtainable early and it gives you bonus health. For the same reasons as the bonus health was good on Feel Safe at Home, if you need your character to be able to survive a bit better, this is a good choice. Now, it's based off your max mana, and I think this card alone is probably one of the reasons why Hogarth has like no mana, and why they don't specifically increase the mana, but they decreased recently the cost of his activated abilities. And it's so that he wouldn't have like just way too much HP. But either way, for most characters, if they have a low HP pool, really not going to matter that much. This is going to be much more useful on your melee heroes that have decent sized health pools to begin with. And the extra control effect duration reduction, if you match this in a slot, is also extremely useful. However, the overall health bonus isn't really that good, since the majority of characters don't really have more than enough mana to get about 4% HP. And if you've looked, most of the HP bonuses are higher than that on other skills. So Take Lessons from Sickness is good early just because it's probably one of the earlier traits that you'll get, but I think it needs a buff. Maybe its slot matching bonus is pretty unique, but I think the trait bonus needs to do something a little bit more to entice people here. Either way, you'll probably find yourself only using this early and dropping it later on for much more impactful abilities. So I think this is probably not the worst trait, because that's this one, but not nearly any of the better ones in the game. You'll probably drop this quick. Then we have Walks It Off. Walks It Off, I feel, is the worst trait probably in the game, mainly because the trait bonus is extremely tiny. When you die, you're usually dead for about 10 seconds. A 12% spawn time reduction means that you're now dead for 8.8 seconds. However, when you die, there are multiple downsides that you get, such as enemies getting Rift Rush and stop and like no longer aggroing anything along the path. They also get a speed increase as part of that, and it basically means that your traps will probably deal less damage to them, in addition to the fact that your character is dead and not dealing any damage. So trying to plan your game around your hero dying really doesn't seem like a good option. I mean, this definitely needs some sort of rework or buff. And I mean, this could happen over the course of just like this particular thing being buffed, or this could be like a rework of the entire trait system when it happens. Either way, I see that whenever any changes are done to traits, this will probably be one of the things that are significantly tweaked or reworked so that it becomes useful at all. Because really, I don't see any point in using this, especially if you have access to other options. And since it's an early trait, there are still other early traits that are better. This is good if you have nothing else just for the crowd control effect reduction, but its trait bonus is just really not worth the time or the slot. So I really don't see anybody wanting to use this that often, because any character that you'd even want to use this on, like say Midnight, already has a Weaver that reduces your respawn time to 1.5 seconds. So what is 1.2 seconds overall reduction versus 8.5 in a Weaver? It's just not worthwhile. So yeah, that's definitely the worst trait. Don't use it if you have any opportunities to not. Then we have Wall Building PhD, probably the most coveted trait in the game. A lot of people will recommend this for going into Chaos Trials or Endless because it makes your barricades super tanky. The bonus 20% HP stacks on top of whatever HP you've gotten from your barricade levels. And if you decide to toss some double struts on, which will reduce the damage taken by your barricades, that 20% HP gets increased effectively by another 40%. So you have 120% HP barricades that take 40% less damage, and they regenerate their HP over time, which is also going to wind up saving you coin since you don't have to repair the barricades. Combined with the fact that this gives you that additional 4% max health in the slot, overall one of the best traits in the game. For diamonds, like, this is up there with Respect My Authority and the 2 lifesteal traits as probably some of the most important stuff in the game. So make sure if you have this that you are very happy. Either way, that should pretty much wrap it up for the traits. I think I covered them all well, but if you guys have any questions or you think there's something that I missed, feel free to let me know in the comments. And I'll probably leave either a note on the video or even decide to remake this and maybe re-upload it if there was something that I, for whatever reason, drastically overlooked. Either way, hope this helps you guys. I sincerely appreciate you for watching, and until next time, as always, have a good one, folks.